All right, welcome back to Bleck and AZ's Fantasy Hour. We're here on WEBR every Wednesday from 6 to 7 for all of your fantasy football needs going into football season. You can also find us Sunday on WLVL from 11 to 12 in the morning. We're also active on Instagram at Bleck and AZ, and we have full episode recaps live on YouTube as well, Bleck and AZ's Fantasy Hour. So if you're listening, getting ready for the fantasy football season, there's lots of different ways to find us, and we will be covering everything we possibly can over the next month, getting ready for all of the drafts. We do have training camp opening this week. We're really excited about that. Last week we talked about some guys to keep an eye on, and this week we're going to be getting ready to move forward into our rankings. Starting off with the quarterbacks and tight ends this week.
Yeah, before we kind of get into it, is I guess the official start of draft season. I know that I don't really have any draft scheduled until like the end of August. There's still a couple of these scheduled, but
Yeah, I have to reach out to some group chats.
yeah, it's like that time of year where they start to pop back up, and it's like, yeah, all the hype going into it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, get to meet up with all your buddies, talk football, act like you know more than them. It's the best.
Yeah.
Make sure you yell reach after your buddy drafts somebody.
Yes, every time.
Every time.
I don't know if you've started to do any mocks. I know you've done a best ball league. I've done a couple myself.
I do mental mocks.
How do you feel about like these two position groups today? Because I don't know, myself going through like the quarterbacks and tight ends, trying to figure out like how I want to go about targeting them in drafts. And I think I'm starting to come up with an idea, but I kind of want to see what you're thinking. Do you tend to like reach or try to go for your guys at the top, or are you cool punting on some of these positions?
I think I've always kind of had similar strategies with both of these positional groups, just almost as long as I've played fantasy. And I usually kind of punt it till the later rounds. I just think that there's always better value to be found there.
Yeah.
But there are some guys at the top that are worth taking.
Sure.
Not a lot. I think tight end especially this year more than ever maybe with the top two guys. But yeah, I think for the most part, just the value you can get in the later rounds just tends to pan out in the long run a lot more and give you a lot more depth at some of those more valuable running back and wide receiver groups, especially with the way that fantasy's been trending lately.
Yeah.
It's not that old standard league that we remember playing in when we were a little younger. A lot more leagues have become 2 flex, 3 wide receiver. I think full PPR is almost the standard now, really, at this point, more often than not. Then with the addition of things like tight end premium, people are starting to get rid of defense and kicker and opt for more flexes. I think that's all becoming a lot more, like I said, mainstream, really, rather than we've seen maybe 5-10 years ago,
Yeah, and to that point too, like 5-10 years ago, it felt like there was maybe 1 or 2 teams that are doing like a trendy strategy or something that's like a little bit off the beaten path. But now it's way more like just like the Wild Wild West. Like everybody's kind of doing their own thing, regardless of I don't know what like the standard trend might be at the time.
Yeah, I know, and we've seen kind of, I remember 10 years ago now, like doing fantasy drafts, and you would see guys like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, some of those guys go in like the first rounds, and you really wouldn't bat an eye. But nowadays it's like, even in Buffalo, you see a guy draft Josh Allen. There's gonna be that guy that drafts Josh Allen in the first round like all the time, and like. Outside of that, though, it just doesn't really happen anymore. I think a lot of people have caught up. I think that, again, like fantasy football has become so mainstream. People are doing a lot more research and following those trends, just kind of waiting on some of those later round guys. But there is always a correction back to the mean, and there are some guys that, are worth it. And, sometimes you can get value because, we're seeing guys like Josh Allen going like the 3rd round on ADP, and guys like Lamar we might have seen going in the 1st and 2nd rounds before, is falling all the way to like the 4th and 5th round. So there is still some value to be had in some of those top round guys, and it's a conversation, and I can make a case for and against a lot of these players. But when we start looking at the rankings, really, it does start off with Josh Allen within the quarterback position. I think he is number 1, like in a tier alone, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I 100% have him in a tier of his own. He's projected and has in most of the last seasons just been outscoring the rest of the field by a substantial enough margin that is like a difference maker. It does move the needle when your quarterback scores 5 more a week than literally every other quarterback and 10 more than half of the league starters. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he is by far and above like the best asset in fantasy. All things considered. Like you said, I think he's been like the number one scorer in fantasy the past like 3 or 4 years in a row. The guy has back-to-back seasons of double-digit touchdowns, maybe even more. I think the only person that has more touchdowns than him, rushing touchdowns, I should say, in the past like 3-4 years is like Derrick Henry, maybe. It's actually pretty crazy. On top of that, 30 passing touchdowns every year, almost guaranteed. He is just an absolute league winner. And on top of all of that, the durability. It's just, he is the Iron Man of the NFL. We've talked about that before. He never misses games, really, no matter what. He's a set it and forget it guy. You throw him in your lineup. If you are able to get him at his current ADP, which is kind of at the top of the third round, I think it is definitely worth consideration based on your roster construction. And in my opinion, I don't know about you, but looking at some of these other early round guys, and when I say early round, I mean like top 5 rounds, Josh Allen is probably the only one I would personally genuinely consider.
Super agree. And honestly, like, partially because we're in Buffalo, I'll never get the chance to take him in the third round. But even then, I think just with like how deep the rest of the league can be, it's a really steep price. Just kind of knowing how things all average out over the course of a season. He is the one standalone that I would take over probably like the top 8 quarterbacks, just based on where everybody's going and the value that he brings over the rest of that field as well as the rest of the field. But yeah, I mean, moving on, there are other, like you said, the other guys that are in this top echelon of quarterbacks that are being started every week are worth the value that they're being taken, just not my taste.
Yeah, no, like I said, it really depends, if they start falling a little bit, like I said, if I have the first or second pick and you already have Bijan or Gibbs and I'm coming back at the turn and I'm able to land a strong RB2 maybe, maybe that's like a Kenneth Walker or an A-Chain or something like that. I do feel like I would actually feel pretty okay taking Josh Allen and, waiting to rounds 4, 5, 6 for wide receiver, just because I do think that those wide receivers going in that range can offer a lot of value, and I could really stack enough up, especially with the late round additions as well, to solidify the wide receiver group. And just having those top 2 running backs and Josh Allen and just set it and forget it for those guys.
For sure.
And playing wide receiver matchups, I could totally make that work and feel good about that. And if I have a chance to have RB1 and QB1, I'll make it work with the wide receiver group and the tight ends. Those are positions we'll talk about. Tight ends later in this show and wide receivers down the road. But yeah, I think that there is a way to make that work. Like I said though, it has to make sense with your roster construction and with the value you're getting.
Because
like Bleck said, if I can get Josh Allen at the top of the third round, I'm definitely, it's definitely worth taking and considering.
At the very least, considering.
Here in Buffalo, where we live, it's just not going to happen more often than not. Everybody wants to have Josh Allen.
And I mean, I'm not mad about that. Like they're gonna push other talent down the board, and that's kind of where the
I mean, sometimes it's all about having fun too, and when Josh Allen's the best player your city's ever seen, you want to have fun, you want to have him on your team, you want to root for him every week.
No problem with that.
There really is nothing wrong with that, and it's not going to hurt you, that's for sure. Sometimes just screw ADP, just go get your guy.
Moving on to a couple of the other top quarterbacks, Lamar is kind of seems to be by ADP the standalone number 2. Obviously, mostly because of his rushing ability, but they've got a new offensive coordinator coming in. It'll be interesting to kind of see how that all evolves over the course of not just training camp, but the early parts of the season. I'll be interested to see how much they really utilize some of the guys that they brought in on the draft, and the relationship with Mark Andrews. That really, ever since you laid out that line prop, I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
That's something that I'm sure I'll touch on later once we get into these tight end rankings too. But Lamar, obviously, his fantasy ceiling is so high because of the rushing upside. I think he's the only quarterback ever to have 2,000 rushing yard seasons. He's the all-time NFL leader in quarterback rushing yards.
It's totally a case to take him at the beginning of the 4th round. I get it.
I think for me, the limitations, or I should say maybe the cap on his ceiling, comes with he doesn't really get those rushing touchdowns. They have Derrick Henry, and he'll continue to get those rushing touchdowns and those goal line opportunities, as opposed to someone like Josh Allen, who is basically our goal line back in a lot of scenarios. And also just the injury history work concerns me a little bit as well. He just really hasn't been able to play a full 17 games consistently enough for my liking. But when he does play, I mean, he's, the clear QB2, I would say, in fantasy. Looking at some of these other guys that I have written down here on my notes, though, I have 4 guys in my early rounds based on ADP. That's Josh Allen, Lamar, Drake May, and Joe Burrow. I hate to say it, but I do think that Drake May is actually a pretty solid value, all things considered, where he's going. I have him around like 42, which is the middle of the 4th round, I think. Yeah. He finished his QB2 last year. He offers a safe floor with his rushing ability. Doesn't really turn the ball over a lot. And while I do think there will be some regression just based on the schedule they're going to be facing this year, I think there's lots of ways that I could, preface it in a way that I do think he actually could be even better. Not to mention the addition of A.J. Brown, Romeo Doubs. They added a tight end in the draft. But just the fact that I don't really expect them to be winning every game so easily, which would lead to more passing opportunities, which could lead to even more fantasy points. I think that Drake May could very easily finish again as a top 2 potentially fantasy quarterback.
I don't know if you recall the stat exactly, but I know that Drake May didn't have a passing game of over 300 yards until like the second last game of the season or something like that. So, I definitely think, given that they had, we considered a pretty cupcake schedule last year, that and I mean just some of the quarterbacks they had to play.
And also on top of that, I mean, there were so many other Joe Burrow missed a lot of the season. Lamar was missing games. Justin Herbert was a little banged up. His offensive line was hurt. We saw a lot of guys fall back this year, and which made it even
easier for May to rise. But it does make all the sense in the world to expect Drake May to take another step forward with, like you said, the weapons, the opportunity,
the rushing floor really helps a lot too. When I'm drafting fantasy quarterbacks, I mean, I need
undoubtedly
I need some rushing upside. Sure. I really do. Sure. I just feel
there's
like
too many options to not take one with
also, it's just when you don't have a guy, when you have a guy that could potentially have, an 80-yard rushing game or have 2 rushing touchdowns, it just really creates such a higher ceiling for those huge games that are going to single-handedly win you weeks. When a guy doesn't offer that kind of upside, you're really banking on a guy to have like a 400 or 500-yard passing game and 4 or 5 touchdowns. You know what I mean? It's just that is way less likely to happen than someone like a Josh Allen to have 2 rushing touchdowns. You know what I mean? So I just need that from my fantasy quarterback, and Drake May offers that. So does Lamar. And then when I get to this 4th guy here, Joe Burrow, that's somebody I'm passing on in fantasy drafts.
I mean, he goes not that close to Drake May, but he does seem to be one of the more
almost a full round after. But I do, like you said, I mean, he's pretty much
the 4th quarterback off the board. I do have him in a tier below Drake May and Lamar Jackson. And I mean, some of the other guys in this tier, in my opinion, are just all that 5 points a week below Josh Allen. And so just to kind of go through it fast, it's Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts. And some of those guys have more rushing upside. Some of those guys are more pure pass. I mean, Justin Herbert's not a pure passer at all. It's really just Joe Burrow that is the pure passer. The rushing upside helps and allows them to be closer to that QB1 that you...
Who are you referring to? The other guys in
this group? The other guys in this group. So Jane Daniels, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert.
Joe Burrow is one of the few guys in the league that, if he plays a full 17-game seasons based on his talent and the weapons around him, could potentially throw for 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns, which gives him that ceiling. But it's because of the injury history and the lack of rushing that really just turns me off from him at that spot and that value. Like you said, these other guys you have in the same range, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, those are all guys that I feel a lot safer with that offer a much higher floor while giving a similar ceiling.
And we're looking at, so for Jaden Daniels and Justin Hurts, that's somewhere in like the 6th round. Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, even go as far as like the 8th round.
Mine I have Caleb Williams at like 85, which would put him in the 7th round or something like that. And I like that. I mean, Caleb Williams finished as QB5 last year. I think that his rushing ability is extremely underrated, to be honest. And I think that they have a lot of room to grow in the second year of the Ben Johnson offense. Somebody that I think is, fell off a little bit here is Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is like the epitome of a high floor quarterback. Since he's been a starter in the league, I don't think he's ever finished lower than like QB7, which is like going into like year 5 now or 6, I think. I mean,
ton of touchdown equity.
It's
really
the touchdowns, man. It's the
up,
touchdowns. As long as the tush push exists, Jalen Hurts is getting 10 plus rushing touchdowns every year. I don't care what you think about him as a passer. In fantasy, this guy is, like I said, offering one of the highest floors you could have, and he still has the ability to pop for those big weeks. I love Jalen Hurts, and I love his value there. I think he's going at like the 6th round.
What number is he on your list?
So I didn't like do my list in terms of like my personal rankings. I just did it based on their ADP and where they're going. So he is getting drafted on sleeper as QB6, and I think that's kind of fair. But I'm just like, for a whole round or two, even I had like 3 rounds after Lamar. I mean, Lamar does offer a much higher ceiling, but I think Jalen's ceiling is similar. I mean, he's had top 3 QB finishes in fantasy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I just think his floor is so much higher. And similar to Josh, he really rarely misses games. He's just a big quarterback, really strong, very rarely gets hurt. So I like that a lot for him.
And is this so? Hurts going around what we're talking about, like the 7th round, right? Is that somewhere where you are comfortable taking a quarterback?
I would consider it. Realistically, like when I'm looking at this, like if I don't get Josh Allen with like, in a scenario where I have a top pick, which is probably not going to happen very often. I'm probably dipping somewhere in one of these middle round guys. I don't know if it would be somewhere in like the 5th, 6th round. It really does depend on roster construction.
For sure.
But in reality, what would probably happen more often than not for me is I'm waiting for like the 7th, 8th round, and I'm grabbing like a Caleb, a Justin Herbert. Maybe I wait another round, grab like a Dak Prescott. Those are the guys that I personally like, and I like the value and where they're going in those range. I think they offer high ceilings and high floors, really. I'm the kind of person that I'll take like 2 of these guys, like somewhere between like round like 7, 8, and like round like 12, and then I'll just play matchups like that. That's what I like to do personally.
In the past, I feel like I've been more of the mind to either kind of like identify a guy that I feel really strongly about late, or just kind of not. It's been one of those things where I don't like the rest of the guys at a certain pick, so I'll just go with the like ADP friendly quarterback at the time, and it's hasn't led me super astray, but I think that this is one of the first years that I'm kind of going through all of these quarterbacks and choosing to punt and just like punt deep.
I mean, I think I can make a strong case for a lot of these late round guys that I have.
Going into this next tier, I've got like 7 names here, and I would feel really comfortable grabbing any of them. And I mean, it takes me to the 15th overall quarterback on my list, which I think you could probably justify taking 2 of them and just really ripping the high upside weeks and like just playing the matchup setting.
I before we move though, I want to hear your thoughts on some of these guys like Jaden Daniels, who is going as QB5, I believe. I know that's your boy.
I do have. I've got him in a couple Dynasty. I've got him in a keeper league. So I am invested in him. I don't think I would be drafting him at the beginning of the 6th round
in the redraft.
Yeah, in redraft leagues. I just think that. I mean, just to come back healthy and to expect Terry McLaurin to be healthy is great, and it should improve on what like they were able to do last year, but they really weren't able to do anything last year because they were injured all year long. So I mean, I do have a lot of faith that he will be productive. I don't know if he's going to be quarterback 5 on the year. The rest of his supporting cast leaves many questions to be answered. It's tough to want to reach on a guy like that coming off of a major injury and going into a season with, if we expect them to upgrade receiver, they're just coming in after training camp. And now we're reaching a point in the timeline of the season where that kind of matters.
I think
you can make up ground, but like it's going to matter, I think.
I totally feel the sentiment about like just his supporting cast not giving him much to work with, and that's super fair. I think when you're taking a guy like Jaden Daniels, though, you're really just banking on that high rushing upside.
Sure. Yeah,
he's a guy that if healthy could have potentially 1,000-yard rushing season.
Yeah.
I don't know what he had as a rookie. I think he had like 700-800 or something like that,
yeah,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that is a little too rich for my blood.
I'm super excited to have him where I don't have to pay the draft capital to do it.
Yeah.
And I feel that way. I find myself feeling that way about a lot of guys I end up having in my dynasty leagues and my keeper leagues, where you know, when you stack all the value up on the board, like, you're doing great. But when it comes to redraft, like, it's kind of a different animal.
Another guy that I was surprised to see was so high on Sleeper's ADP and rankings, Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
QB7 on Sleeper. That's where he's being drafted.
I feel like in that case, you're kind of
ahead of Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence.
You're drafting the ceiling. Like, you're drafting the price of him having a good season.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of that.
That's just like too, like, that's.
There's no risk baked into taking him in the 7th round. Like, he's kind of like.
Yeah, he's not even in sleeper territory anymore at that point. You know what I mean?
For quarterbacks, especially. Kind of like we just went over this. Like,
I agree. I think that's way too high.
For 7, and the rest go after.
He did have 9 rushing touchdowns in like 12 games last year. That's kind of crazy. His ceiling is as high as anybody's, like you said. I think there was a point where he had like a 5-week stretch where he was pretty much QB1.
Yeah. I mean, he's got top 5, top 3 upside for sure.
There's a scenario where, you know, he's healthy, everyone's healthy, and that offense is clicking, and I think he's scoring those rushing touchdowns, and he has Malik Neighbors and Isaiah Likely and all these guys.
And if that's the case, he's then like a 4th or 5th round draft pick next year. Like I said, like
he could be even higher potentially. I mean, if he can repeat a double-digit touchdown season from the ground, I mean.
New coaching staff and everything too. Like, if it just looks great right away, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but again, I don't love the value there because there are too many question marks.
Right.
He is the most boomer bust pick by far in this area.
100%.
I wouldn't be, he does have like top 3 QB potential, but he also could finish like QB like 15 just because of injuries
100%.
or just maybe even just the transition to a new offense, or it could be injuries not even from him, but like we don't know about Malik Neighbors right now. Although we've gotten some news that we should be feeling optimistic that he could potentially play week 1.
You feeling optimistic?
Always have been. But it's just there's too many questions there for him surrounding not just himself and his injury concerns, but the team as well. So I'm also passing at that range, but if you're able to get him in like the 9th or 10th round, I mean, I love that. That's somebody that I would love to like double dip on QBs and like could play matchups with someone like that. And like you said, moving on to some of those like later round guys, I do want to touch on a couple more here before we move though. Like Trevor Lawrence is somebody I know that is like been getting like a lot of love from like the fantasy community. I think he finished the last month of the season as QB1 last year.
One of those games was like a 5 rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
game, though, so
a
little bit skewed, but yes.
Yeah. How you feel about Trevor Lawrence going into this season? I had on Sleeper, he is currently being drafted as QB10 and is going around. What is that like?
92?
90. I have 98. So what does that put him at? Like the 8th round?
96. I think it's the 9th.
Yeah. Okay. 9th round.
9th or 10th. I mean, that's fair value. You're not drafting the top 5 quarterback upside with it. He's returning with basically the same cast of characters except the running back position, which, will be something we monitor. We mentioned last week we'll be watching during the preseason. I don't hate it.
I think you can make a case like both ways with him. And I think he does. I mean, I think he was QB4 last year or something like that. Yeah. So you could say he has QB like top 5 potential
for sure. I mean, this whole group of guys that is in like from 10 to 15 all also have top 5 potential.
You can make a case for anyone. Like I said, that's why it's like I'm just like kind of just waiting on all of them. And I take 2 of them and just play the matchups.
I deliberately want to punt on quarterback this year because of just like there's just it's so deep.
If I don't land like a Josh Allen or Drake May somewhere in like round like 3 to 5 or something like that, I'm probably waiting until like round like 7, 8, 9 before I take guys, and I'm taking 2 of these guys here. I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb just ends up on more of my teams than not. Again,
right. If he's a faller too, like if you can get him in the 8th or 9th round, because quarterbacks are
that's where it's going.
Yeah, if quarterbacks are just falling on draft boards.
I mean, are you guys really worried that because he lost DJ Moore? I mean,
no,
that's what I'm saying.
They phased him out.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I mean, I don't really get it. I think that Caleb Williams is one of the most popular guys in the NFL last year, coming off a hot playoffs, going to year 2 of one of the best offenses in the league.
Yeah,
I'm not sure really why he's
essentially turning into just punt on quarterback.
He's going in like the same range he was going last year. It really doesn't make sense. Mahomes going around like the 10th or 11th round as well. I know that's somebody that you're not really excited about this year.
With the group that we're going over right now being as deep as it is, I don't feel the need for Pat Mahomes.
He's Pat Mahomes, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not even in Bleck's top 5 right now.
No, he's not.
Yeah, all right. I guess we'll see. We got some good news from him too on
Yeah.
the injury front. I mean, I guess depends who you're asking, but it's always good to have a guy like that back in the league. The league's always better with players like that around.
Yeah.
And he looks like he'll be probably ready to go week 1. I'm sure there'll be some limitations, especially from the rushing aspect, which correlates deeply into fantasy, which is already priced into his ADP here, going in like the 10th round. But again, yeah, I think I'm also kind of like fading him this year as well. I'm sure he'll have some boom weeks, but because of the lack of rushing and just his weaker supporting cast as well. And they made some, moves like Kenneth Walker. I think they want to like kind of get back to running the ball a little bit more. So yeah, I'm also passing there as well. Looking at these late round guys, though, there's a bunch of really interesting options here. Who do you like, honestly?
I mean, at the top of this tier, I have Dak and Stafford, who I think are very easily almost like just set and forget players that you're getting after QB8, which is insane.
Yeah, I think I did mine like based on like guys that are like after the 10th round, so like guys that have an ADP of like 120 or higher. So Dak was still like kind of like right under that.
On the fringe there. And Purdy's probably in that ballpark as well too.
Yeah, Purdy's fringe too right there. I do have Stafford though. He's like on top of that list. I mean, what was he, QB 2-3 last year? Something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, great season without.
It's a redraft league. Like, who cares if he's 40? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, he offers the same ceiling as Joe Burrow, in my opinion. Maybe Joe Burrow has 100 more rushing yards.
He made the Madden 99 club this year. I don't know if you saw that.
That's awesome. Yeah, good for him.
Which means he's the best quarterback in the league.
Isn't Josh 99 too?
Sorry, so he's tied for the best quarterback in the league.
That's fair.
But a couple guys that I think that I'm actually going to target in the draft come after the ADP of 120. So I'm looking past round 10 for quarterback options, and one of them is Jared Goff. They have a pretty nice schedule, all things considered. It looks like the receiving core is healthy going into what should be a smash of a season.
Dude, look at Jared Goff's stats the last like 3 or 4 years.
Jared Goff
is so underrated.
In the back half of the season.
He's so underrated.
And his back half of the season this year is just riddled with dome games. So he's playing in good weather, in controlled environments.
Keep in mind their new OC was the OC in Arizona last year that had Jacoby Brissett putting up a top 12 week every week, throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game.
Jared Goff finished the season a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
And if you're getting the same kind of production where he's having top 10 weeks in the back half of the season, what more can you possibly want out of like a quarterback on your fantasy team?
No, I get it. Jared Goff is like the perfect like QB2 to have.
Yeah.
Like if I'm doing this like Jackson Dart, Jared Goff, like that's like a sick like pairing to have because Jackson Dart gives you that crazy ceiling, but Jared Goff's floor is just so high.
I totally buy that.
Barely ever misses games. Only caveat is that he's one of the biggest statues at the quarterback position in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's not going to score a rushing touchdown.
But
probably won't even have 50 rushing yards.
He's in the conversation for passing leaders.
He's throwing 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. He might lead the NFL in pass attempts this year.
And also, I mean, they had the new coordinator come in back half of the year. Dan Campbell ripped the play sheet from the OC, and like things just turned around. So super optimistic on Jared Goff. I would love to put on him. And if somebody is keen to this, then I'm very happy to pivot to someone like Jordan Love.
Super safe floor.
Yeah. Super safe floor. Another situation where, Tucker Kraft is not on the PUP list going into this training camp, which I think is kind of a big deal as well. But they've kind of condensed some of their target share. And it feels like Jordan Love is one of the more, maybe not clutch, but just efficient quarterbacks.
He's a safe option. I think him and Jared Goff are both very safe options.
Yeah.
And guys that you kind of know what you're going to get there. Like I said, they're high floor options. I don't think they offer some of the ceiling as some of these other guys, but great QB2 options. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, awesome QB2 options.
Unfortunately, they won't last until the double-digit rounds.
No, not in those type of leagues, not in super flex leagues. No. But, regardless, like I said, if you're drafting them as your second quarterback or something like that, I really like those guys. And they're good guys that you can mix with somebody else and play matchups.
Yeah, I'm cool with pairing them with each other, honestly. And that might be my strategy going in, but we'll see how the draft room plays out. It's always different.
Totally fair. A couple other late-round guys I have written down. Bo Nix is one. 2 seasons the NFL finishes QB7 both years. We'll see how the ankle injury affects him entering the season, but I think that he plays a very safe, efficient game in the Sean Payton offense, and he offers a nice floor with the rushing upside. Bo Nix is a little underrated in fantasy, in my opinion, getting drafted as QB15.
Yeah.
Malik Willis at 18, high boom, high reward, high bust.
Low floor.
Yeah. We'll see how that offense works out, but with his rushing upside, I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes higher than that.
Yeah, if you take a safer guy like Goff or Love, then maybe you can take a risk on a guy like Willis.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield getting drafted as QB19. I think that's pretty interesting. He's really grown as a rusher the past couple years. I thought that was interesting. I looked at that. 400 rushing yards roughly the past 2 seasons. That's really good.
Yeah.
Both way higher than what he'd been doing in previous seasons.
Was playing great till he got hurt too.
Yeah. Was one of the best quarterbacks in the league for the first 6 weeks last year, and the season before, with Liam Cain and that offense when they were rolling, he was like QB4. I expect him to finish a lot higher than QB19. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Tyler Shuck will be a fun, popular one. He'll have some big weeks. He played really well down the stretch. Kyler Murray, QB21. We know what he can do when he's healthy with his rushing upside.
Yeah, why get one guy when you can just have fun with one of these guys?
Seriously. Seriously. I mean, if I have like a Dak or something like that, I'd love to roll the dice on like a Kyler Murray.
For sure.
And then one last guy, I think Bleck's got him circled too. Cam Ward, somebody that I think really could open some eyes this year. I think that we've seen Brian Dable have success with rookie quarterbacks before. Look what Jackson Dart did last year, Brian Dable calls design QB runs at one of the highest rates in the league. And I think that's an underrated aspect of Cam Ward's game that we didn't get to see a lot of last year. Then when you add in the additions at the wide receiver room, Carnell Tate, Wan'Dale Robinson, year 2 from some of these rookies, I think there's lots of reason to have some hope in Cam Ward. The Titans are a team we've talked about a little bit this offseason that we expect to be a little more competitive. And I think Cam Ward, getting drafted currently as QB25, will smash that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be as high as like a top 12 QB, but
certainly a streaming option if he's not drafted.
Yeah, somebody that I think, given matchups, someone that could be a lot better than people think and
sure.
should easily finish within the
I like
top
that
20 in my
call,
opinion.
actually.
Yeah. That's going to be our quarterbacks, I think, unless there's anybody else you want to touch on.
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think we did a good job rounding that out. And then moving on to tight ends. I like both of these positions and doing it in one show because we could talk all day about all the running backs and wide receivers, and there's just
most
so
of the time
many.
you only start one of these guys.
But the quarterbacks and tight ends are guys that you could just it's kind of cut and dry there for the most part. But there are some debates here. Touching on the early round guys, which we've done so much of this season. There is that top tier of Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. Trey McBride currently on sleepers, being drafted as tight end 1 around 16, so like the top of the second round, top middle. And then Brock Bowers is tight end 2 at 24, so the end of the second round.
I don't think either one of us would draft Trey McBride over Brock Bowers, though.
No, and I love Trey McBride, but I just can't.
Not even about
not that
being
I can't.
able,
Yeah,
I get what you mean, and it's not even. That's not the reason. It's Brock Bowers is.
He should be so much higher. I really don't get it, man. If you've listened to the show at all, really, I think every week we say it.
Yeah.
Brock Bowers should.
He's probably going to be a first-round pick next year.
If Brock Bowers was getting drafted at the end of the first round in that turn, I don't even think I'd be that surprised. No. It's actually crazy to me. He's 24. Yeah. I would take Brock Bowers, and I have in some of my best ball and mock drafts, as high as 14, 15.
Yeah.
I just think that his upside is insane, and the positional advantage you're gaining there, it's just
the floor for him should be insane.
Yeah, it's just Brock Bowers is my favorite pick in the second round in every league, and if you're telling me there's a world where I can get him at the top of the third round, that's just crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. I'm taking Brock Bowers over Josh Allen, realistically.
Yeah.
Realistically, if I'm in that scenario that I
100%.
mentioned earlier in the show, where I have a Gibbs and a Kenneth Walker, and I could take Brock Bowers, I'm doing that every single time.
I don't know if one of the best first overall pick. At the turn, I did take Brock Bowers and Josh Allen.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
The
that's fair. You got tight end 1. If you mean, you got RB1, QB1, and tight end 1.
We'll keep the world updated on how that team's doing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love those guys there, and I think that they offer, like I said, a huge positional advantage against your league mates. And if you're not getting those two guys, I don't know about you, but I'm probably not drafting a guy until round 10 or after.
Yeah,
but there are guys to talk about.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at my tiers, and I have Colson Loveland in the top tier, but I think it's pretty safe to just make the blanket statement that there's the top 2 and then there's the top 5, and I don't really expect any kind of variation with who that'll be. So after Brock, Bowers, and McBride, in our order, Bowers and McBride, I have Loveland, Tucker Kraft, and Tyler Warren. And we had good news on Tucker Kraft today. It sounds like he's on track to play
Should
week
be ready
1.
to play week 1.
Yeah, and good news for Tyler Warren also. Daniel Jones looks like he's on track to be playing week 1.
That's huge.
I don't know, because it's funny, I don't want to skip right over Loveland, but Tucker Kraft and Tyler Warren are in very similar situations where they have their quarterback returning, largely their entire offense returning, except it's a less competitive
they actually have a lot of, I mean, they both
downsized like their primary targets.
Yeah, the Colts
in
didn't do anything to
game.
replace Michael Pittman, who had over 100 targets last year, and then the Packers lost Romeo Doubs and Dontavion Wicks, who I couldn't even tell you how many targets they had combined.
Right.
And Tucker Kraft was already the number 1 target on the team with those guys there. I think I love Tucker Kraft right now. I'm sure he'll fly up the rankings with the news today, but currently he's tight end 6.
He's going in the 6th round.
Yeah, on sleeper. But Tucker Kraft was arguably the best tight end in the NFL until he got hurt last year. And he's one of the best yak guys in the NFL, not even just at the tight end position. He's a beast with the ball in his hands. We'll see how much the injury impacts that. But
given the price, I at this point in time, I would much rather Tyler Warren or Tucker Kraft over.
There's not many tight ends in the NFL that are the clear number 1 option on their offense. I think Bowers, McBride offer that, obviously. You could make an argument for Loveland, but that's yet to be seen, really.
I think another case of like his prices, you're paying for the upside.
Yes. 100%. And but with Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft, I don't really see an argument. I mean, Alec Pierce did get a big contract, but I don't think that he's really like a huge target. He's more of like a downfield guy.
I mean, Tyler Warren was dominating targets before they let go of Pittman.
100%.
So giving Pierce the bag, sure, he'll be involved. He's not going to eat all of Pittman's targets.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Tucker Kraft versus Christian Watson. He got a big contract as well.
For sure.
So it's a very similar situation. I like both of those guys a lot.
Shout out you last year. Those were your guys, and they were going post tight end 12. They were outside of the top 12 going into the season. And
they're both top 5 tight ends, basically.
For sure.
I love the tight end position. It's like always been one of my favorites since like I was like real young, honestly.
Same. I've had leagues back in the day where I would draft 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds just to have the flex and do some crazy stuff.
Dude, I'm like the opposite. I would like draft 2 tight ends in like round like 15.
And end up starting them in the flex.
Dude, I remember being like 12 years old and like drafting like Jimmy Graham in like the 16th round and like telling my dad like oh, look out for Jimmy Graham, and then like he went crazy, and I think maybe that's why I love it. Like I was just like, ever since then I was just like, dude, you can draft a tight end wherever and you get value, and you can sometimes, not always.
And I'd say the same exists this year.
I don't know if there is going to be a tight end that I'd have a hard time seeing a tight end finish tight end 1 that's not McBride or Bowers without an injury. But I do think that there's a really good case for a lot of these guys to finish like top 6, top 7.
Yeah, and, I'm not nearly as eager to punt on tight end as I am with quarterback. But I think it's definitely doable.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, if I'm not getting one of these like top 5 guys that you just named, McBride, Bowers, Loveland, Warren, Kraft, I'm probably waiting. Because these middle round guys just do not appeal to me based on where they're going.
Yes, I so agree.
I think Harold Fannon's a great player in real life and he's a fun player. I just think the quarterback situation is not very good. I think they added a lot of competition into the target room.
You're paying ceiling again.
Yeah,
going at the top of the 7th, top of the 6th round.
Too high for me.
Yeah.
It's not a good offense. They're a team that wants to run the ball mostly at the end of the day. They drafted 2 wide receivers real early in the draft. I don't know who's throwing the ball any week, and whoever is throwing the ball probably isn't very good. Just not for me personally, although he did have a great rookie season, all things considered.
This is another Jaden Daniels for me, where I have him in a handful of leagues, but I don't want to pay this price in redraft.
For sure. I mean, that was a guy that was like a fun sleeper last year you could get like at the end of drafts if you wanted, and he totally paid off. But like now you're paying for him to kind of repeat that success, and there's just lots of reasons to think that 100%. It'll be hard to do this year. Still a great prospect long term, will be a good player in the NFL, but just not for me this year.
Yeah, no, I'm not paying
Kyle Pitts, the walking conundrum in the fantasy world. Doesn't even cross my mind, to be honest with you. I just would rather do anything else than have to worry about that headache.
He's not completely
Single-handedly ruined leagues last
100%.
year. Like, come on, Thursday night, Kyle Pitts, the best player of all time.
Depends who you were on that Thursday night.
Yeah, seriously. No, there wasn't anybody that was starting Kyle Pitts that won because of Kyle Pitts. You didn't even deserve to be there.
I don't know. Kyle, was he being drafted as a top 12 tight end last year?
Always will be. Top 12? I mean, come on. Look at the guys that are getting drafted top 12 this year. There's no way.
Then I'm looking outside. I guess. I don't know. It's such a funky position. It really is.
It's so hard. It's so, like, I mean, if you're not getting some of those, like I said, those true, like, target hogs that are legit number one options on their team, it's so touchdown dependent. It's matchup dependent. It's week by week. I do like Sam Laporta. I think that he's a little undervalued. Right now, he's getting drafted as tight end 8. He's going in, like, what is this, like the 8th round, 7th round?
Yeah, like 7th, 8th turn.
Yeah, it's not bad. I just think, we already mentioned the offensive coordinator. His name's like Dan Petzing, I believe, coming over from Arizona, and just seeing what he did with Trey McBride, and talking about how the Lions could potentially lead the league in pass attempts this year, and Sam Laporta just being their biggest red zone option. I think that he could be due for a big bounce back season. I like that one a lot. Dalton Kincaid, tight end 9, passing.
No,
I'm passing.
No Kincaid.
I don't like it. I don't like the value. I think it's too high.
I don't like the price, but I do like the player.
It's giving poor man's Kyle Pitts.
That sucks because it does.
I think he's a great player in real life. He just can't stay on the field, and he just hasn't really fully materialized to be that first round tight end. You know what I mean?
The worst part of it is that, like, his splits, like his average per game is elite. He just doesn't see the field. Maybe it's not even just per game, but
it's
it's a snap count too.
It's the snap count.
If he sees the field 60%, if he were to see the field 60%, that would, like, double his snap count, and that would make him a conundrum.
Yeah. Plus, not to mention the addition of DJ Moore. You know, hopefully some growth from whether that's Keon or Skylar Bell stepping into a role, or Josh Palmer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if he was going to have that year, it should have been last year. And while he did play really well while he was on the field, he just isn't on the field enough for my liking. And I think that just given the competition at the target group, I just don't really see it happening this year for me personally.
Like you said, it's the price. If the price wasn't, and I mean, at this point, if you're drafting Dalton Kincaid, I don't think you're done at tight end. Whereas,
no.
I mean, honestly,
he's like a guy that year. It's like same as quarterbacks. You take two guys and you play the matchups.
Outside of the top 5, really.
And he offers like a nice, like, you know, high upside weeks, but there's going to be weeks where he doesn't do anything and weeks where he's probably not even playing. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I hate that, but it's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real.
I'm skipping past these other guys. They're sleeper tight end 10, 11, 12. I don't really know why or how, but Rondé Gadsden, Hunter Henry, and Dallas Goedert. People are just hitting buttons at that point.
I mean, Goddard's fine.
I guess.
Hunter Henry.
I just don't see why, like, I think Goddard did have a really good year last year. And I think
Hunter Henry scores touchdowns too, but now there's just...
both those teams added a lot of competition, whether it's at the position with rookies or just, you know, supporting cast.
I don't care for Gadsden this year.
Yeah.
Bringing in Njoku doesn't move the needle on him enough, but, like, why'd you do that?
Yeah, and also, like, he was just a little too inconsistent for my liking. I think they're all solid options, but I think that just given the options much later, I'd rather wait a couple more rounds and take these guys.
Yeah.
I have a few names written down for late round guys. Who do you like?
Of all of them, Isaiah Likely seems to make the most sense, and that's kind of like the end of this mid-tier.
How is he getting drafted as tight end 21? You're telling me you guys all loved Isaiah Likely when he was the backup for Mark Andrews for all these years. He always had, like, all this hype and, like, you know, potential breakout.
Follows the head coach to a new team.
Now he gets a big contract, and he's the clear tight end 1, potentially the number 1 receiving option on the team.
Clear tight end 21.
Yeah, and he's tight end 21. It just makes no sense.
No, that's definitely not.
It's so weird. He will finish way above tight end 21. I would guarantee that.
I will overdraft him. You know, just
I would rather take Isaiah Likely over Rondé Gadsden or Hunter Henry, to be honest.
So many more.
And he's getting drafted like 4 rounds after. It makes no sense.
Over Kincaid. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, just given.
Over Pitts.
Given the value, man. Like, if you're telling me I could have Isaiah Likely like 70 picks later. I'd rather that every day of the week. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I think that's that'll be a popular one, and he'll be a riser too. I
He's
I don't really expect him to be there that late.
He's worth the reach at this point. I haven't been keeping track of what round we're in right now, but 2 rounds ahead of his ADP seems perfectly logical. He's almost at pick 120, so that's
essentially you guys all love Jackson Dart. He's getting drafted as QB7, but you don't like potential number 1 option heading in the season, or number 2 at the very least.
Right.
At the very least,
that's his floor. Like that's still.
Yeah, I don't get that one.
Doesn't make sense to me.
I do have a couple older guys written down though. Mark Andrews, someone that we touched on. I love his position this year. No Isaiah Likely, Declan Doyle coming over from the Ben Johnson offense, and the way they utilized guys like Colston Loveland and Sam Laporta, obviously in Detroit. Mark Andrews, a lot younger than you think. I'm sure a lot of you guys think Mark Andrews is like 33, 34. Mark Andrews is 30 years old. He is not washed. It's one of Lamar Jackson's favorite targets. If Derrick Henry's not running the touchdown, Mark Andrews is probably catching the touchdown. I like Mark Andrews a lot as like a high floor, safe option here.
I like Mark Andrews more than all the other names we ran through, but I would say, and he's the perfect pivot if somebody actually goes and grabs Likely ahead of my pick in my
I think that maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling because he's not going to have 10 catch games. He's not going to have 150 yards.
He might have 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I do think that I think that he's a guy that could get realistically 600-700 yards and probably 7, 8, 9
Check
touchdowns.
The touchdown prop on him.
Yeah, I love Mark Andrews at this spot. Currently getting drafted as tight end 13, and then This one also makes no sense to me. Travis Kelce is getting drafted as tight end 19.
That's I want to punt on him, but that's
tight end. You know what Travis Kelce finished last year as?
12.
Tight end 3.
No way.
He was tight end 3 last year.
No way.
He was tight end 3. Travis Kelce is never finished outside the top 5 in tight ends in 10 years.
That's not real.
It's real, bro. It's real. This dude, it's Travis Kelce. I don't care he's 37. I don't care if it's his last year. I don't care if he's just out there having fun with Taylor Swift. Doesn't care. He's Mahomes' number 1 option. Will be as long as he's on the field. Tight end 19 is insane.
Tight end 3.
I don't know if he'll be a top 5 tight end. I don't know if he'll be a top 7 tight end. He will be a top 10 tight end. I could guarantee you that. He will be way more than tight end 19. I have no idea how he is falling to tight end 19 in sleeper drafts. Current ADP 131. What is that, the 11th round, 12th round?
11th.
I just
12th.
I get it. I mean, he's older. He's out the door. But I mean, as long as he's on the field, he's gonna catch some passes. He's gonna catch some touchdowns. He's a huge part of that offense. He's a huge part of that team. Mahomes trusts him more than anybody. And like I said, he was just tight end 3 last year.
I can't believe that.
It's crazy, right?
That's gonna sit with me all week.
It's crazy.
I'm not gonna leave.
It's crazy. It's crazy, bro.
Wow.
I can't believe he's going that low. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I don't think that we're going to see 18 tight ends get drafted over him in most of our personal fantasy drafts. But yeah, that's a guy that if you might not even realize because you have to scroll down so far to find him. That's a guy I'm feeling pretty cool with taking as my tight end 2 in the 10th round. Given some of these other options here, or even my starting tight end if a lot of my other guys that are already gone. A couple other guys I do want to shout out really fast. Chigakonkwo. How do you feel about him, Blake?
Given that he's basically option 2 in Washington, he'll probably see some volume. He has a history of at least being maybe not fantasy relevant, but
he's always been
he's there.
He's always been a popular breakout guy that's never really done it. But now he has every opportunity to, and Jane Daniels, and the offense there, they really like to utilize the tight end position. We saw it happen a lot with Zach Ertz, and Zach Ertz, given his age and his ability at that point, didn't really offer the same yards after catch that somebody like Chig could. So if he's afforded the same targets and opportunities that Zach Ertz was, I think that is somebody that could easily smash his projection at tight end 26 here, going at 280, pretty much the end of drafts. And then one more guy I want to shout out before you can touch on Gunnar Helm. Greg Dulcich, my boy. Not even getting drafted.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, really. Greg Dulcich is I don't need to say anything other than I think that Greg Dulcich is the number 1 target on his team. And when we talk about, these other guys, and there's not many of them, Greg Dulcich is somehow in that group, not even getting drafted. Dolphins won't be great. Don't know how good Malik Willis will be, but they gotta play the game. They gotta throw the ball. Someone's gotta catch the ball. Why not Greg Dulcich? I love him as like a late round pick. Someone I could easily see finishing in the top 15 as tight ends. Top 20 for sure. Definitely deserves to get drafted and will be a popular pick of mine, I'm sure. I already have him in some dynasty formats. Just picked him up off waivers. He's free. Go get Greg Dulcich.
Yeah. I do anticipate sniping you on him at least once this offseason, so just prepare for that. Just to have a little bit of stock in him. I do have him highlighted myself. I'm appalled that he's not even being drafted.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
I don't know if you jotted is not like...
Who the hell is drafting Terrence Ferguson over him?
Well, I might. If you have the pick ahead of me and you take Greg Dulcich, well, then maybe I'll take
Terrence
Ferguson.
The last thing I want is the 5-headed monster that's the Rams tight end room.
Yes, but there's only a 2-headed monster in the receiver room. And there is space for a tight end to emerge as a passing target. And I think that of all the guys they have, it's probably Terrence Ferguson. Now, Kobe Parkinson's been there for a while and has some tenure on the team, I guess. I mean, Higbee exists there too, so they're basically the same guy.
And Max Clare.
Max Clare, the rookie, yeah, sure. I mean, clearly with the way that they draft, they don't really draft for the season ahead. I think that Terrence Ferguson, big body, could absolutely find his way onto the field as maybe even like their third receiving target.
Yeah, I think I'm just avoiding all these like 2 tight end rooms. Like, that's why I faded Rondé Gadsden. It's why I would fade someone like maybe like Terrence Ferguson or even Kenyon Sadiq. Or
especially Terrence Ferguson.
Even talking about Dalton Kincaid, like we said, he's really only on the field in passing situations.
Yeah, and Terrence Ferguson's in a 5 tight end room. It's not even just the 2 tight end.
All right, give your Gunnar Helm pitch, hurry.
No, because I do want to touch on Kex Merrick, who is one of the tight ends that Miami drafted. But that'll be for another day. That'll be the deep dynasty dive day whenever that happens.
We'll do a bonus footage episode.
Yeah.
For Will Kazmir.
Keep it rolling. Gunnar Helm, the tight end from Tennessee. We already kind of touched on Cam Ward a little bit. We do expect him to take a step forward. Brian Dable's offense does like him a good tight end. Coming into his second year, I believe, as well. A little bit of youth movement going on in Tennessee, and I think he's part of it.
Yeah, sick name too, Gunnar Helm.
All-time tight end name.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's great. With a name like that, you just got to do something.
He'll find the field.
Yeah. All right, we're wrapping it up here. Next week we'll probably be touching on, let's say, running backs. That sounds fun.
Deal.
Yeah. Like I said, check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Bleck and AZ. We're getting all ready for all the drafts coming up soon, so if you're listening, check us out. Good luck in your seasons. Good luck in general, and go Bills.
Go Bills.